World War III, the battlefield killer that released with a rough start in 2018 and never lived up to the hype. That game died. It was pulled from the market to be reboot after a publishing deal with My.Games. That game is returning here on November 25th into a paid closed beta, and in March is a free-to-play open beta. A lot of you are probably here because you've had a bad experience with 2042 and want that experience from the battlefield that you're used to. But you need to know a few things with this game before you dive into it, because it's not going to be the experience you think it is. It's not a battlefield game. My name is Tacti, and I want to share some insights with you about the game and why it's going to be a little bit different. But first, I need to talk about a sponsorship that I'm stoked about because I finally made it big time, Mom. OperaGX. You know, I've wondered for a long time why I'm not better at video games. I study, I practice, I aim, I shoot, and then it dawned on me. You're not using a gaming browser, dude. That's your problem. And boy, was I right. After making the switch to OperaGX, my gaming skills stepped up to the next level, and it's all because of the OperaGX features, most notably the browser resource management that helps prevent lag and frame drops. Here, you're able to limit the resources your browser uses, including networking strength, RAM, and CPU. These are crucial to your system's performance, especially if you haven't downloaded enough RAM lately. They are also so kind as to search the internet far and wide to find you free games on the interweb that you can download and play on each platform. So not only does it improve gaming performance, it also gives you freebies. And most importantly here for you gamers, you can customize your browser's loadout by changing the theme, the color scheme, and you can have your own browser wallpaper, a must-have for you tactical fans out there. I'm not lying here when I say that I made the switch because of this, and now I'm also using the mobile version as well. So thank you OperaGX for sponsoring this video, and make sure you, the listener, download the browser in the link down below to improve your gaming performance and support the channel. Alright, so there are a few things you need to know if you're considering getting into this game, especially, like I said, if you're coming from Battlefield. And one of the most important things to note when it comes to this game, like I said, is it's not Battlefield. It's just not. You gotta get that in your head now, you gotta get it in there early. There are a lot of differences between the two games, really, and in my personal opinion, this game, World War III, is a little bit more in depth than Battlefield, at least how the gameplay mechanics work, so keep that in mind. But one of those things comes from the general design of the games themselves. In the most recent Battlefield, the game is designed around producing all in the community, right? The size of the maps, the layouts of the maps, the abilities, the explosions, the vehicles, the player count. The ultimate goal of this newest Battlefield appears to be chasing those Battlefield moments nonstop. That's all fun and well, but in its current state, that makes for poor gameplay. World War III, on the other hand, is more centered on the general gameplay loop and how to promote squad-based objective play while producing the most fulfilling first-person shooter experience on the market. There are some intense moments in World War III for sure. There's some crazy moments where you think, did that just happen? But for the most part, you're not going to find those TikTok Battlefield moments here. That's not what this game is about. To flesh this out a little bit, give some examples. There's very little verticality to most maps in World War III, and the environment is not really dynamic. There are some small structures and barriers that might be destroyed, but for the most part, buildings are fixed. They're safe spaces when it comes to external threats like tanks and strikes, which we'll get to those strikes here in a moment. But there are no elevators, no standing on top of the tallest peaks and sniping down. These maps do not offer this. Instead, they offer more of a realistic vibe. Buildings tend to have 2 or 3 floors, there are plenty of windows and hills and rocks. It's honestly nothing special, but what it does provide, again in my opinion, is a much more enjoyable infantry-based experience. The map you see is the map you get every single time. You won't see any tornadoes trucking through here anytime soon. But while we're on the topic of the infantry experience, I want to talk a little bit about the vehicles, because there are a lot of vehicles in this game, and by a lot, I mean a lot. The vehicles provide loads of depth in regard to customization. Really, the entire game's customization, including weapons, is probably the best system I've seen in any game like this, at least arena shooters, or maybe someday they're going to have a battle royale. Hopefully that makes it in there. But what you need to know about these vehicles is that they are primarily ground vehicles. They can be taken out with things like C4 and RPGs for sure. There are a few aerial strikes like the heli drone and the mini explosive drone that you can fly around, but you're not going to see any jets or attack helicopters or be sniping pilots out of the sky. Everything is done from the ground. Your player remains on the ground pretty much all the time unless you get yeeted by a tank shell. This again removes some of the verticality of the game, and you can focus on the action around you and where you need to go for your objective. Alright, I want to talk about strikes here now, and the customization when it comes to these strikes. And then I want to touch on the gunplay a bit, because that, in my opinion, is the best part of World War III. World War III allows you to call in strikes during their primary game mode, TAC Ops. You get to customize these and set them up prior to each match, and you get 3 of these. So they can be a numerous amount of things, from a simple UAV to, again, a heli drone or a tank. It's up to you what you want to bring in, but the more you customize these things to make them stronger, the more battle points they cost. Now, you earn these battle points in the game fastest by capturing monitoring objectives and listening to your squad leader's orders. But let's take the tank for example. I want to talk about the customization. You can customize the armor, the secondary weapon, the primary weapons, and the things like active protective system, things against rockets and other dangers. Then, as the enemy, if you don't have a C4 or you don't have the RPG, you can take out the tank's optics. If you shoot the little lights on the top of the tanks, you destroy their optics, they can't see you anymore, and you can send them running. You can also, with your weapon, destroy the APS system or disable the turret. Each and every part has a different system of damage, and that's true for nearly all the vehicles in the game. And that makes it so you don't need these explosives again. You and your little plinkster can be effective against these things, and that's stinking cool. There are also some strikes that come from the sky, airstrikes, bombing runs, stuff like that, and you can customize those to your liking as well. So really, in my opinion, that's super cool. There are loads of customization to this, and with these strikes, you can call them in repeatedly. So if you continue to capture the objectives and listen to your squad leader and are really focusing in as a team, you can call in the most powerful weapons in the game numerous times. So that's where the teamwork really comes in. Now moving on to what I think is the best aspect of the game, the gunplay. These weapons, they've got some recoil, horizontal, vertical, like crazy, but definitely no spread. You know how Battlefield, when you're shooting, you see the red dot and then you see a bullet go to the side a little bit, just some randomization? This game doesn't have that. Where your red dot is aimed, or where your sights are aimed, that's where the bullet's gonna go. The system is a hit scan system within, I believe, like 10 meters, and then past that, it's a projectile system. So there is bullet drop, and it can be difficult to hit players at longer distances. But the hardcore nature of the game complements this very well. You can kill an enemy with 3 well-placed shots using an assault rifle from 200 to 300 meters out. This, along with recoil, makes you really think about your shots and where you're aiming. Can I switch to single fire and take that guy out across the map? Probably. Are there going to be bullet sponges? No, and that's the best part. And then let's talk about the animations and the movements and the ballistics, the time to kill, stuff like that. I just think World War III has got something special here. And to go along with the weapons, the armor system is neat. Like I was talking about the ballistics, the armor system here, it doesn't add anything like 20 extra HP points or anything like that. Instead, it only protects the specific parts of the body that it's covering. Helmet protects the head, chest plate protects the chest. It's simple, but satisfying. There are also different levels of plates like in real life, so the higher level you go, the better protection you have, but just in those areas. This does change the character's weight, however, which then also changes the speed. And then just a note about speed here, you can take in 2 primary weapons, but you're going to be slower than molasses when you're in the battlefield. So there are no real restrictions when it comes to that. I think this system in general is what makes World War III stand out as superior again in my opinion. Now, it may not be host to the best graphics, but I believe World War III still looks beautiful, much better than before. The maps aren't huge, but they're not small either. Actually, they recently released their system requirements. I'll run that across the screen here so you can see what to expect while I'm talking. But the servers only hosts 60 players. But as you know now from Battlefield, more players does not equal more fun. So I think 60 players is probably sufficient. We'll see how it plays once we get there. But I would take 60 players on these somewhat smaller maps than Battlefield's 128 players on those huge, really ridiculous, really kind of dead maps. And finally, the cherry on top here. World War III will be free to play. All the attachments available will be unlocked through gameplay. The cosmetics are the only thing being monetized as far as I'm aware. There's no pay to win here, they've been very adamant about that. Only incentive to support and play the game. You can access the closed beta on November 25th and the open beta begins in March. And that one will be completely free, as will the full launch. But if you compare that to a $90 pre-order access, I think there's a huge difference. And I know that there's maybe this stigma that free-to-play games are going to monetize the heck out of everything. What do you think Battlefield's going to do? What do you think Call of Duty does? That's exactly what they do. They throw a ton of microtransactions at you anyway. This one's just going to be free, so you don't have to pay the initial 60 to 90 to 120 if you've spent that bucks. So there you go. I just wanted to touch on some things so you get a more realistic take on this game. It's not going to be the Battlefield game that you're expecting. It is its very own game. It's not a Battlefield game. It's a modern shooter of its own style. So I wanted to share that just to maybe bring your expectations down, but also give you an idea of what to expect with this game. I've done a whole video on that. I'll link that down below because that shows what you're getting with your purchase, as well as some more game mechanics. This is just a general overview. But that pretty much ends this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here and you want to know more about World War III and the general dynamics and how the game's going to play, that's going to be my primary game, I believe, so hit that subscribe button. I'll definitely still be playing Battlefield 42, but mostly just for content, not for fun. So that concludes this one. Until the next one, be bold, be courageous, stay tactical.